All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Nice Grass, Nice People. And we've got a really fun and special episode today, joined by a gentleman who I've been a fan of for damn near a decade. He is, at this current moment, probably the busiest man in sports, business, media, and culture substacking and podcasting. It is none other than the great Ethan Strauss of the House of Strauss podcast and Substack. Ethan, welcome to Nice Grass, Nice People, my friend.
Oh, it's a very kind intro. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. I know we chatted a little bit before we started recording, but I'm excited to get you out here to talk a little golf, man. I know over your career, it's been a lot of basketball, lately a lot of Caitlin Clark, some ESPN stuff. And so to get you here on the golf side of things is pretty exciting, man. Do you feel prepared to jump into the golf discourse gauntlet?
Only in regards to myself and my own journey. Golf is always so intimidating because it's got such a high bar of expertise. I mean, intimidating not to play, though it can be, I mean to write about. You can't BS golf. You can't do that sort of thing. I covered a few A's games without being a tremendously serious baseball fan, and I felt like that was within my purview. It was something that I could do. I could show up. I could observe what happened. I could ask the players some questions, say some things, and I could do it. You can't do anything like that with golf. The people who are into golf, many of them are extremely into golf. And so as a bit of a novice, as a bit of just an occasional, maybe once a year I'll play around kind of guy and I'll watch the majors, you stay away. So I'm comfortable talking about me. We start getting into other things and start getting into opinions on the golfers, and I mean, it's just scary. I get scared talking about live or what have you. It's terrifying.
Which is funny, yeah, because as somebody that covers sports business stuff like that, the live story over the last couple of years has been pretty wild. And who knows, if we have enough time, maybe I'll see if you got some cursory, outsider thoughts on that whole fiasco. But I do think the fact that you aren't totally buried in the world of golf gives you a huge advantage in some aspects, because the article that I invited you on after reading, I found fascinating as somebody who lives and breathes golf, is in this world, every single day. The idea that you had shared and your experience with ChatGPT, and we'll go into it obviously in greater detail. Maybe it's just a little naivete on my part in terms of like not thinking to use ChatGPT in all the ways that you can, but it was something that I had never considered, and I found it absolutely fascinating. And so maybe we could start there a little bit. An article that you wrote, looks like August 4th last week on your Substack, titled "LLMs Will Be Like Ozempic for Golf: The Robot Caddy." So maybe it'd be a little easier for you to kind of summarize your experience, and then we can kind of go from there, my man.
Yeah. So I'm coming at this from the perspective of somebody who is lucky to break 100 when I play, and I like golf. I enjoy it, but I'd never done a full commitment to trying to get better, except I've got this annual event with my brother-in-law and some of his friends that we go to out in Tahoe. And I don't want to embarrass myself. And so about a year ago, we were about to do this. I hadn't played in however long. I didn't want to embarrass myself. I did a golf lesson with a human, and it was pretty unpleasant. And I'm thinking back on it too as to why it was unpleasant, the dynamics of it. She gave me this advice that's probably good advice. She wanted me to loosen my grip. That's a classic piece of advice people get, to loosen their grip.
Of course.
And I think she wanted me to slow down my backswing. I felt like that even screwed me up, just because I was starting to focus on something and one thing goes wrong, then the other thing goes wrong. The round went fine. I survived it, but I didn't get a whole lot out of it. So, fast forward a year later, same event, same annual event. I'm trying to get good, but that didn't work. I want to do something different, something else. And so, I remember that there's this Trackman stuff. I'd seen it, and I was always so curious about it. And I look it up, see if anybody has it in my area. And there's this guy, this older gentleman, I should say, in case he ever listens to this. He's got a Trackman. You pay for a session, $150. And he was awesome. It was great. It was really cool. I enjoyed it. But his advice was, once again, loosen the grip, but also I'm actually aiming way to the left of what I think I'm aiming at. And those were the two pieces of advice. And then he was pretty complimentary on some of the numbers. I've got good swing speed for whatever reason. I'm not a strong person, but for whatever reason, there's hit power there. And so that felt good. I play the round, similar results. And I'm just more curious. Now I've got a bit of the golf bug. And I'm hanging out with my neighbor. He's a 15 handicap guy. He's decent. He's good. And we're talking about, he's asking me about my swing because I mentioned trying the Trackman thing. And I realize I don't know how to describe it. I don't know what to say about it. And then we both get the simultaneous idea. Hey, what if you just feed the numbers into GPT? What if you do that? Just ask it everything about your swing. I fed in those 12 Trackman numbers from one swing that I got from this instructor. And I was floored by just how clocked I felt. That recognition when somebody's describing something that you're aware of at some level, but you don't even know that you're aware of it. Everything it was telling me about my swing, its strengths and its weaknesses, I recognized, I could just sense that it was all just completely true. So from that moment, I went, okay, let's see where we go with this. And I went out to the driving range and I changed my swing really in an hour. I mean, what you're seeing, I sent you these clips of what the swing was before.
Pretty impressive, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
It's just in terms of how much change there was from, we say, 1 hour of session. I mean, it takes golfers typically a long time to make changes in their golf swing.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, and you might have similar journeys or similar issues, I had a very over-the-top swing. I didn't know anything about having an over-the-top swing. And I think one of the reasons for that is that the people listening have probably had different experiences with golf instructors. But if they clock you as a short timer, as somebody who's just going to them for one event, I don't think they typically try to fix your swing. I think that's why you get the loosen the grip, aim this way, slower back swing. This might be good advice, but it's the kind of advice somebody gives you if they think they can't fix you. And this is all in the margins. That's not actually your swing. That's not actually the meat of what's happening. The machine doesn't care, and the machine isn't trying to baby you. The machine is just going to tell you what is up with your swing and what needs to change for the swing to be better, which was what I was actually curious about, in addition to why. I had the experience as somebody, I'd go to the driving range, and I'd hit some balls, and some would be flubs, and a lot would be slices, or they would not be kind of good but not really, and then every now and again magically everything would sync up and the ball would fly straight and far, and I wouldn't know why, but I was trying to figure out why. But you're not a great authority on why as yourself. But if you start filming yourself, just set up a little iPhone behind yourself and you start uploading the video to GPT or Gemini, and it also has the backlog of the Trackman numbers, you'd be surprised. It tells you, nope, you didn't do that right. You got to do this. And you go, okay, I'm going to do this. Did I do this? Yep, you did this. You start doing that again and again. And I think you might be shocked at how quickly you can improve. And when it's such a fast motion as a swing can be, I'm sure there are instructors out there who can do it just as well. But I don't know if that's most instructors. And I got to say, the machine was really good. And there's a lot of skepticism when I tell people this. They think that it's not true, or I don't know what. I don't know what to tell them. It's like the machine told me to do this to my golf swing to make it more of a sideways swing than this over the top. And they gave me this advice on how to do it. And damn it, I think it worked pretty well.
I think you might be making a lot of golf professionals a little nervous. It's one of those things where, everybody's always talking about artificial intelligence coming and, replacing a lot of the workforce. But I think the general, consensus with a lot of people is that, well, people in the service industry are probably relatively safe from getting replaced with artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. And this idea that now, the golf professionals might be needing to look over their shoulder because ChatGPT can do just as good of a job much quicker and more succinctly. And for someone like you, it sounds like the communication you were getting from ChatGPT was way more digestible, and it was giving you answers that you weren't getting from your golf instructors. So I'm curious, when you plug in these Trackman numbers, what are some of the things? Obviously, you said you have an over the top swing. But did it give you why you're swinging over the top, and was it also providing you with, hey, if you have an over the top swing, this is maybe what you should think about? Or is it just like lower your hand? I'm just so curious as to the kind of feedback you were getting and how you were able to use that to then improve your golf swing.
Yeah, it's funny because there were different tips offered and there were different drills, but that stuff didn't matter as much than just the very iterative. I've seen Bryson DeChambeau talk about his process being so iterative of just trying this, and when that stops working, try that. And it's almost that sort of rhythm where it's, okay, I'm going to try a motion that's different based on what you're telling me is wrong with the motion. And I need you to confirm to me whether I actually fixed it. Did I do this right? And then just the ability of the thing to say, yep, you did it, or nope, not quite. That's the thing that it was for me. It was understanding it, some of the dynamics of it. This is a classic golf problem. I think one of the reasons why it's a classic golf problem is that you've got this idea in your head of golfing the ball. In baseball, when the hitter golfs the ball, you swing up to down. Like that's what it is, up to down. And I think the actual good golf swing is a lot more sideways than would seem intrinsic or obvious to people. And that's something to get used to. And so to simplify it, a lot of it was, okay, how do I swing more sideways? And coming back more sideways helped me swing more sideways and opened it up. But I don't think that there was necessarily an exact instruction. The advantage was more just getting confirmation or disconfirmation immediately.
Yeah, it's fascinating. After watching a couple of the swing videos that you sent over, I actually thought you had a pretty good baseline. And it's funny that you mentioned, kind of trying to get sideways. So, in the world of technical golf course instruction,
Shallowing.
Yeah, exactly. You like either you get really steep where you're bringing the club back, and it's kind of, almost on like a straight, up and down plane versus getting a little flat. And conventional wisdom over the years is that, steeper is better because, at least for the professionals, because the steeper the golf swing that you have, the more spin you're able to generate. And if you're able to generate lots of spin, you can control the different amounts of spin, and it allows you to hit all kinds of golf shots that you can't. But for the amateurs, for the 99.9% of us, getting steep also, it's like a fine line, right? The steeper you get, the closer you are to then coming over the top. And I think your, suggestion about getting a little more sideways, a little more flat gives you a lot more leeway. My swing personally is very flat. I mean, flatter than I would like it to be. I'd be a little afraid of what ChatGPT would say if I put my swing numbers in. I don't hit the ball particularly far though either. You may have higher swing speeds and ball speeds than I do, which, hey, just cheers to you. Maybe just a natural athlete. Maybe that's the reason that the golf bug came and bitch is that you have a little more natural ability than maybe you're giving yourself credit for.
Well, I think that is part of it. When we talk about ability, I mean, I don't know if we're talking about hand-eye necessarily, but it's weird for me. I'm not a strong guy. I don't have upper body strength. Nobody has ever said you're strong. That's never happened.
Likewise.
I have whatever weird muscles just make the club swing fast. I don't know why, but I can clock in at about somewhere between 108 miles an hour to 115. And I don't know why. I don't know why that's there. I think that's cool. And so maybe that's one of the reasons it did bite me. It's this sense of, I've got this thing that's supposed to help me do a thing, but I'm bad at this. And I don't know why I'm bad at this. And when I'm at the driving range, again, you're not being terribly focused. And I'm just doing this assuming, well, practice makes perfect. And you don't even know why you're failing. And at some point, you just say to yourself, well, this might just be me. This might be the people who can do a good job at this are a different kind of person than I am. And I'm just not that person. And I'm just never going to be that kind of person who can play a round of golf competently. And the tragedy of that, I think, is that so much of what's helped me is just one piece of advice or just one little leap like that. And you wonder if you got that piece of advice sooner. I showed you an old clip of me swinging where that's even after what I remember in college, I learned from friends that you have to use your hips. I would just use my arms completely, not even knowing that. And that's just one suggestion. And so I think looking back, a lot of it, yes, it's practice. A lot of it is playing, but there are just a few tips and pointers that I think could radically improve a lot of people. And thank God we have not only this arcane tool we're talking about, but YouTube and everything else. I think it's a really good era for that, whereas it was quite difficult to access knowledge.
Yeah, I'm just so curious about kind of the communication style that like ChatGPT would use when it's giving you your feedback in a way that you could process it and then put those changes into place. Because from my experience with like actual golf instructors, I know you mentioned that you had like a couple different instructors. The first one maybe not as good as the second one. Granted, there was the second one was using TrackMan and the first one wasn't. But I found with different golf instructors that just the communication style, they're two golf instructors can be thinking the exact same thing
Mm.
and try to impart the same advice to you, but they'll say it in two different ways. And one way will work great for some golfers, and one way will not. It'll go right over the head of other golfers. One thing I noticed from the videos that you sent me was in the videos after you'd used the TrackMan and ChatGPT, you were leading with the club head a little bit more in terms of, if you're not watching on video, I apologize, but when you start your golf swing, the head kind of starts to go first, and then the rest of the body follows it. Right. And
Mm.
so some instructors have told me, hey, the feeling that you want when you start your golf swing is you want to pretend like there is a little string attached to the head of your golf club, and that string is getting pulled from behind you. And that's the kind of the sensation that you want when you're starting your golf swing. And that kind of gets you into that right groove. I've had another instructor who wanted to tell me the exact same thing, say, hey, when you start your golf swing, right before you're starting, maybe a little tiny forward press with your hands. You put the back of your left hand just a little bit towards the ground, and that'll kind of force the golf club in the back to kind of start. I've gotten both those advice. When I think of lowering my hand to the ground, my whole golf swing falls apart. When I remember
Mm.
to think of it as a way of the string is getting pulled behind me, that seems to set me in the right place. They're giving me the same advice, but they're saying it in two different ways. Now, again, this might just be evidence of my cognitive abilities, but I do think that the way that golf instructors communicate with their students, sometimes it clicks and sometimes it doesn't. And that's what made me so curious about ChatGPT and your experience was, do you think it is the way, just the directness and the objectivity that you
Yeah.
get from ChatGPT is what you were seeking that you weren't getting from those instructors beforehand?
Yeah, and I wonder if what you're also getting is confidence, because some would say sometimes ChatGPT can be wrong or screw up or hallucinate, and that could be a problem. But it's very confident when it does, and sometimes we're just looking for that. We're just looking for a piece of advice unleavened with any sense of, oh, I don't know, or I don't know about that. Just the idea that it's telling you this is what you do, and that objectivity. I think that's what drew me to the TrackMan. I loved when the guy doing the TrackMan lesson was saying to me that, hey, it's objective. I'm objectively telling you how the face of the club is hitting the ball. And I'm going to go back. I do want to do TrackMan now after doing this whole
Well,
GPT
yeah.
journey and fixing the swing. And there's still things I got to work on that it's telling me I've got to refine. For whatever reason, I think because my hips are fast, my arms trail the hips. Now, I don't know what's going to unlock that or get my arms to catch up to my hips in that way. I don't know if it's a suggestion similar to the string suggestion that you got that's going to do that for me. And that's part of the fun of the process of trying to get better or fix aspects of your golf game, is that there's something there. There's some suggestion that will unlock it for you, but you're not quite sure. And I think that's one of the things that GPT is offering, is this endless bounty of different prompts in that way, of saying the same thing in different ways, because sometimes that's just the secret to unlocking it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, when you were mentioning that before, you were kind of coming from over the top. What exactly was the advice that ChatGPT gave you, like as a fix to like lower your hands? So they say, hey, you should try to feel like you want to have your hands drop down to your right hip, or was it just simple as your hands are way too high? If they're at 11 o'clock, you want to move them to 10 o'clock, and then you were able to internalize that. I'm just so curious as to how ChatGPT is communicating, how it would like you to try to make these changes. Maybe they don't at all. Maybe it just says, hey, your hands are too high. Take a video of yourself and try to get your hands somewhere closer to this. I
I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up to see if there was actionable advice, because it almost gets lost in the soup of, what do I remember? Because I definitely looked to YouTube after I got this advice from GPT that I was screwing up in that way. There was a guy who was saying what he was trying to do was kind of unclench his elbow towards, how do I even say this? The physics of this whole thing.
especially in an audio format, it's really, really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember where you take it back and your trail arm, you sort of unfold it and unfold it when it's back as opposed to kind of when it's coming. That did it for him. I was trying it that way and that wasn't really working too much, even if that was good.
And that's what I mean is
Um,
that what works for some golfers, like a thought that works for one golfer, there's no guarantee it's going to work for another one. And I think if I'm going to put my skeptic hat on with regards to the Chat GPT stuff, the one thing that I wonder is, does Chat GPT have kind of an ideal golf swing, in terms of
mm,
it's always trying to get people to sort of adhere to the same sort of core principles that it knows lead to quality golf shots, where in the real world, and it certainly was the case way more 20, 30 plus years ago before the Trackman, is that every golf swing's a lot different. I mean, I'd be curious if you put Scotty Scheffler, the number one player in the world for the last 2 years, winner of 4 major championships, if you plugged his golf swing into ChatGPT when he was coming up, I don't know how familiar you are with Scott Scheffler and watching him play golf, Ethan, but he's got
the shuffle.
he's got the craziest footwork of any golfer in professional golf history. I mean, it looks like he's twisting his ankles throughout his golf swing, and his move when he starts his golf swing, he doesn't exactly look like he's having the club head pulled back with a string in the way that I was describing. And so, what I'm curious about is do you think the ChatGPT is going to, in a sense, try to homogenize golf swings and try to get them all, looking the same? Or do you think the model will evolve over time, or maybe it already does, where it's finding what works about certain golf swings, keeping those, and then has the ability to try to work around your strengths? Because I mean, I think what
Yeah, because that's what we'd want.
golf instructors would advocate, that's why they're so valuable, right? It's like they're great at identifying the things that you do well and then trying to use those as like the core base for your golf swing and build around it. And I would love to know. I mean, who knows if you'll be able to talk to somebody. I don't think Sam Altman's available for discussing ChatGPT's golf abilities, but would be really really curious if now and over time, if ChatGPT's golf instructional prowess would evolve in a sense that it would be able to adapt to each person's swing and offer unique advice for each person looking for it.
Yeah, I think that is a fear that it would homogenize based on its idea and that it can't necessarily see what's next. It can just base what it knows off what's happened before. And I think that could be a real concern. And maybe somebody who has a unique game like Scheffler, it wouldn't give him the right advice. I think that's a fair concern. I'm looking at its initial advice. The initial advice was more diagnostic
Okay.
as opposed to fixing. That's just telling me. It was suggesting foot spray to check out the strike location, trying to get me to do face angle neutrality. It was suggesting a higher tee height, and it was in a way kind of working with my flaws as opposed to just telling me how to fix it. But then it gets me on the path of this is what's objectively wrong. Now I can be on the path of tinkering and you can tell me if I fixed it. And that's the thing. It's hard for me to explain. It's that it didn't give me the tip. What it gave me was confirmation that I was moving in the right direction. It was more a device. It was more when you're doing that hide and seek, maybe with your kid, and they're going warmer, like they hid something and like warmer, colder, warmer, warmer, colder. That's more what it gave me, because a lot of the tips and advice it has, it doesn't have any access to advice that you couldn't find on YouTube, at least now, that not that I know of. But I think one of the things that machine learning can do, I'm not saying it's done it with golf, but one of the things it can do is stumble upon an innovation that we wouldn't have arrived at, because a lot of sports is imitative. Why do we do this? Because it's always been done this way, and we imitate the way it's done. And then every now and again, you see somebody do something that's just so simple that people could have been doing it for years, but nobody knew to do it. In the NBA, it was these guys coming over after playing in Europe, Manu Ginobili. And in basketball, you pick up the dribble, you take one step, two step. Everybody in America was taught the way I was taught. You go one step forward, two step forward. You want to go off your inside foot for the layup. And that's how you do it. Ginobili picks up his dribble when he gets to the NBA, and he takes one step to the side, super shallow step, we might call it. And then the other step to the side, pushing off in the opposite direction, called a Euro step now. And it just blew everybody's minds. It kind of looked like a travel, but that's totally within the rule book. And I do believe that the LLMs have shown a capacity to discover a thing like that. There's this documentary called I think it's called AlphaGo, about that game Go. I don't know anything about that game.
Yeah, I can't say I'm too familiar as well.
Yeah, let me make sure that's the game. The little board game. It's a strategy game. Let me see.
Yeah, well, while you're looking that up, it does kind of remind me, at least in the world of golf, kind of just sort of the swing speed revolution, the ball speed revolution, where people have realized that, it's not nearly as important to find the center of the club face, especially given that modern technology is so forgiving. That now really the name of the game is just speed. Is it working on speed all the time?
Similar in baseball.
Exactly. So it's one of those things, forever it was always in golf, hey, good swing, find the middle of the club face, make good contact. And we're learning now that it's much more important just to swing really, really, really fast, even though it goes against essentially what the common knowledge was for 100 plus years.
In baseball, they discovered similar, where you're actually not even that in control. Even the guys with the best control of where the ball goes, and if it's a strike or if it's a ball. So best that it be fast.
Yeah.
It's more important that it be very fast.
Every bullpen, we're going to need 5 of you guys throwing 100 plus, please.
Yeah. AlphaGo is a computer program developed by Google DeepMind that plays the game of Go. It gained significant attention for its ability to defeat professional Go players, including a landmark match against world champion Lee Sedol. I'm not sure if that's the right way to pronounce it. Yes, I saw the documentary on this, and what was fascinating about it, and forgive me if you know how to play this game. I don't know how to play this game.
I do not either.
But it's a strategy game. You could analogize it to chess. The computer beats the human champion in the first go-round, and then he wins in the second go-round. And to my memory, the reason it happened was this. The computer, similar to Manu Ginobili, showing off how you could Eurostep, uses a strategy that no human had ever used playing that game, ever. But it was a sound and logical strategy. It just wasn't bound by the normal human rhythms and imitating this is how you do things. It did something that was counterintuitive. And so the human champion saw that strategy, said, oh my God, this has opened up a whole new way of doing things, and beat the machine the next go around because the machine revealed a whole new pathway. I think the LLMs do have that capacity. So while there is a danger in offering homogenized advice or even incorrect advice, I think there's a possibility in the dispassionate machine seeing something that we otherwise wouldn't have seen. Maybe it would have noticed that the squaring it up is actually less important than the swing speed. Maybe that would have been noticed earlier by this thing. And there are possibilities like that perhaps on the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really fascinating. I do think that, again, I think your analysis or analog to GLP-1s and Ozempic is pretty good, because I think, for you, my assessment is that because you are, not lost in the world of golf, you're still fairly, new or like a novice, is that this kind of just objective basic advice is maybe more helpful to someone like you as opposed to somebody that's got years and years of bad habits and things, kind of. And so again, coming at it from, I guess an outsider's perspective, I think is really great. And I think your kind of main takeaway from the article, where you're saying that the average golf skill, especially for more beginning golfers, should improve on the whole, similar to how people have gotten skinnier with GLP-1s, I think is really, really sharp. I would agree. And again, I'm a little nervous as somebody that's played a lot of golf. I think I'm going to have to go do it myself just to kind of see what sort of feedback I get. Yeah, man, it's really interesting. Now, again, staying on like the outsider's perspective, I noticed in your article you also mentioned something about a golf experience that you had in terms of the culture of golf was vastly different than you had imagined. In terms, just people were a little more relaxed. People aren't really as big a hard-nosed on rules and stuff like that as maybe they would care to be. I don't know. For me, again, someone who's playing golf all the time, I find it varies from course to course. Why'd you find it so shocking that people were out there not really playing by the rules all that much?
Well, I remember when I was a kid, there was some weird mini controversy about Bill Clinton cheating at golf. And so my only real experience with golf as a kid, and these were some of the best memories I ever had, was going to Florida, and my grandfather he was living in one of those communities where there are golf courses everywhere, and you take the golf cart to the golf course, and he'd let me drive the golf cart as a kid. And so there was casualness there, but I just thought I filed that away as that's golf with grandpa, where he can take me on the course and I can hit a few balls. And it's a thing that he's affiliated with. But I remember when it was controversial, Bill Clinton cheating at golf, I thought, oh, golf is a gentleman's game, and you do not cheat. Nobody cheats at golf. Nobody ever, everything's just got to be strict. Golfing, strict, starchy. And then when I play with friends later on, there's, hey, breakfast ball, mulligan. It's that sort of thing. And obviously, I don't know how people do it if you get in for a round at not at the Masters, but at Augusta. I remember the Warriors players, a few of them, when I was covering them on the road, they got a round in at Augusta, and it was hooked up somehow, and the owner was playing with, I don't know if it was Iguodala or whatever. I don't know if you take mulligans at Augusta, so I don't know how it works, but there's clearly a range, and there are places where you can be casual. And recently there's been some sort of controversy over Trump being accused of cheating at golf. And I don't know the details of that. I haven't dug into it, but I've had friends who don't play golf talking about it. And I just look at the way they're talking about it, and I feel as though their perspective on the game is like when I was a kid.
Sure.
And they assume something differently about the etiquette. They almost assume that when you're with your boys, it's like the PGA Tour. It's very odd.
Yeah, I found in my experience that it kind of changes from course to course and person to person. I have certain golf buddies that just choose not to take even if we're playing in a group of guys where it's pretty casual. It's like, hey man, take a breakfast ball. Essentially we're out here to have fun, right? We're out here to enjoy ourselves for 4-ish hours. Like, let's not stress ourselves out. Like, we want to hit some good shots. We want to be able to talk, maybe drink a beer. When you're in that kind of a setting, I would say it's very rare that anybody's going to be super, super strict on themselves. I mean, it comes to gimmies as well. Someone, rolls a putt up to about a foot away. Do they put it in? Or they just scoop it up and walk on. I think if you're playing in competition, that's a totally different thing, right? And I think it sounds to me like some of the people that are a little shocked by, the current president's supposed cheating and stuff like that is because it's in the context of him playing in all of his club championships. I think he said, I can't remember, but I heard that maybe he just won his 37th club championship or something like that. It's the only world leader that's got a better golf game than Donald Trump is Kim Jong-il, because he's the only one that's ever shot 18 for 18 holes, right? So, I think people are but I think for the majority of golfers, it's become a pretty lax, pretty laid back, again, more emphasis on fun than on, competition and score, which I think is great in the right time and place. Do you kind of do you have a preference in terms of the golf you ideally like to play if you're out there with buddies?
Well, now I want to try because I want to see where I'm at. And if I'm with friends, I'm going to mirror what they're doing. I had a great time after this Tahoe thing because then I got the golf bug. The 15 handicap neighbor of mine.
Oh, yeah.
Went with him, played a course, 6 a.m. in the mist and fog of the Bay Area. You at first can't see where the ball is going, and then after a while it clears up. And he was a walk the course guy. And I really enjoyed that. I didn't think I would. So that was cool. And so in a way it was almost serious, but then there wasn't any sort of scorecard seriousness. So I think at the beginning, I want to be casual, breaking every rule because I can't afford. It's just like I'm a disaster. So I mean, I just want to keep hitting shots and not get caught up in what the score is. And now I want to see it. I don't like to drink. I'll say that much. When I do this annual thing, everybody wants to be knocking back beers. My brother-in-law usually kind of bullies me into drinking one or two, but I don't want to play worse. I know some people think you play better. I don't want to. And if I'm playing it in Tahoe and it's, 6,000-7,000 feet, depending on the course, you get messed up.
I was saying those 2 or 3 beers have a little more bam than they would otherwise. You're in the Bay Area.
Yeah. A lot more punch when it's summertime Tahoe over 90 degrees and you're playing the mountain course, which I find very difficult because it's a short course and it's a bunch of little par threes. And I like swinging the driver, but I don't necessarily have that refinement with the irons. And yeah, that alcohol, whew, I don't. It's one of these things where I don't think I'm having a good time and trying to have a good time. That's how
Right.
I feel about it.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah. Yeah, I do find that for me, if I'm just playing by myself or I got one or two other buddies, I'm usually more akin to, just want to play my ball because I want to know what I shoot. Like I want to know if I'm playing better or if I'm playing worse. And really the only way to do that is if you are, playing by the rules and, counting up and, especially if you have an official handicap and you're posting your scores, you have to play by the rules just so you know exactly what you're doing. Because if you're just hitting breakfast balls all the time, you get done. Like I got this great buddy that lives, honestly, probably he lives in the East Bay. Lives really close to Tilden Park. Lives up on
Mm.
Grizzly Peak Ranch Road. Just like so, he's over hitting balls a couple minutes, a couple times a week. But he'll call me and be like, "Hey man, what's going on? Like I shot 78 today." And I was like, "That's great. Did you take any mulligans?" Yeah. Well, I mean, I took a couple. Like I had a bad breakfast ball. I was like, it's like one of those awkward. It's like, do I want to just press him? He's an old college buddy, so we like to bust each other's balls once in a while. I'm like, so do you think if you hadn't taken any breakfast balls, what do you think it'd be? He's like, oh, I don't know, maybe a couple strokes higher. I don't really know. And for him, like, if he doesn't have a problem with that, then that's great. He's out enjoying himself. Me personally, it would drive me crazy because like I have no idea what I shot. I have no idea what the number would be, and that I think if your personality type is more similar to mine, like it's just hard to be playing that kind of like goofball golf all the time because it's like I just have to know. I have to know what it is. Where do you think you fall on that spectrum?
I right now it's I want to know. I want to know where I'm at. I want it to be legit. I sympathize because Tilden can be a frustrating course.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
hard.
sympathize with it. That's the course that's closest to my house. It's a public course. It is packed with people. It is not a fun, in my experience, course to play just because you just might take forever. And it's also pretty kind of packed in. I think kind of narrow in my experience, but I'm no golf course
And a lot of
expert. And I haven't
elevation
played
change,
enough.
which a lot of golfers struggle with
Yeah.
because there's just, especially if you play in the Bay Area, there's just not that many golf courses that have that much, up and down. And I think for golfers, especially who practice a lot, who go to the driving range a lot, that's the thing that's really hard to practice is hitting off uneven lies. There's just not that many practice facilities that give you a space to do that. So when you get out actually on a golf course like Tilden, and you're like, I've hit balls 5 days in the past week, and I've never tried to hit one off a 20 degrees uphill slope with where my feet are below the ball. So yeah, I sympathize with you. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, Tilden, that's the golf course I've visited the most in my life by far. That's the driving range I go to. I've played it once in the last 10 years. And just that first hole is crazy.
Straight
That
uphill.
fir-
Welcome.
yeah, yeah. That first par four, it is at a crazy incline. It's pretty forgiving. The fairway is very wide, but it's a weird thing. You have just no sense of, I don't have no idea how far this thing is going. If I hit it right, I don't know, and I don't know how to play it. And so it is quite a goofy course. I think it's a lovely driving range. I'd say it's my favorite driving range of any driving range because you're up there at the top of the Berkeley Hills. It's beautiful. All sorts of animals running through sometimes. Don't worry, folks. They're pretty good at avoiding the golf balls. They've got
Very
better
good.
reflexes than we do. I love it. But yes, as a course, very difficult. We'll have to see though, because you're asking what my preference is, and I'm still such a novice. I don't play enough, but maybe I'll develop preferences. Maybe I'll be more loosey goosey. We'll see as I continue on this journey and I try to get my hands to get a little bit quicker, and I try to taking these pieces of advice from the machine.
Yeah, well, if you find yourself playing more and more golf, you will find also that maybe the golf course that you're playing at will have a pretty large impact. Because if you go to like a more classic old school private club,
Mm.
the chances are that maybe you play a little more adhering to the rules. Certainly, dress codes are going to be different. I know probably one of the nicest golf courses in the Bay Area is not too far away from you, Claremont Country Club,
Mm.
designed by the same guy that designed Augusta National, Alistair McKenzie. But when you go play Claremont, it's long pants only. They do not allow shorts out there. They take it very, very seriously. I know Steph Curry's home club on the peninsula in South San Francisco. is a long pants only, pretty serious kind of golf club. And so if you're going to play one of those venues, it's a lot more likely that I think the people that you're playing with, because you're going to be their guest, are going to want to play by the rules because they take golf seriously enough to the point where they're willing to invest tens of thousands of dollars a year just into be able to play this golf course. And so like they want to take it pretty seriously. Have you had any experience at a club like that, or does it feel, I don't know, does it feel foreign, or does it feel, I
No,
don't know.
I haven't tried that. I haven't tried the country club experience. I've wanted to play at a few. I mean, my kid went to summer camp near Moraga Country Club, and that golf course just feels so part of the town, and it just seems very inviting. It almost looks casual to me, but I guess it can't be that casual.
Well, some are.
That's one I would like to play.
Yeah, some are like, especially more modern country clubs are way more laid back. And honestly, sometimes at a modern country club, it'll be even more laid back than a public course because there's this sense of ownership amongst the members that it's kind of like I sort of do what I want. It's when you go to the more classic, 100-plus-year-old country clubs that
Yeah.
you're going to find it be a little like, again, I mentioned the one that Steph belongs to. It's like it's in South San Francisco. I mean, this is public knowledge. So, but it's long pants only. The golf club is 100 plus years old. It's men only. They don't allow women members at this golf club. It's very by the book. We have these rules, and admittedly, that's not something I'm normally all that interested in. But when I get there, I get kind of swept up in this, kind of the
Yeah.
traditions and stuff that get there, and I find it actually to be a really fun, neat golfing experience. So I don't know, maybe there's a little.
What's the club called again? What's the one
It's
he's a
called
member of?
it's called the California Golf Club. It's off Westboro Boulevard in South San Francisco. You can kind of see glimpses of it of the fairway if you're driving south on 280 towards the airport from the city. But it's a fantastic. I mean, I think most
Yeah.
golf professionals or most golf experts who kind of assess golf course architecture, it's widely considered to be one of the 50 best golf courses in the entire world.
Looks
And
beautiful as I
it's
look
really
at
lovely.
it.
The very first, you'll enjoy this. The very first time I had the opportunity to play it would have been Father's Day of 2019. A friend of mine had reached out, asked me if my dad, me and my dad wanted to join him and his dad for a round out there. And it's 2019 Father's Day, so this is what, like maybe 1 or 2 days after the NBA Finals had
Mm.
finished up against Toronto for the Warriors. And of course, we get out there, two groups in front of us. You have none other than Steph, Del Curry, Seth Curry, and I would like to which Warriors teammate finished out their foursome? It was not Iguodala from that
Mm.
2019 team or 2019 Finals team. Which white member of the Warriors would have been the fourth member of their foursome?
Jarebko?
That is exactly right. Again, as a man who covered the Warriors for many years, I've asked that question to a few different people, and nobody's ever got it on the first try. So I have to say, it was wild seeing Jonas Jerebko out on the golf course. Definitely had the fourth best golf swing of everybody in his group.
Man, yeah,
When-
you would have thought Andre just because he's such a golf nut. He's he actually Andre had visited the exact TrackMan guy that I had visited.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it was funny. The guy had all these great things to say to Andre, and then about Andre. And then I reached out to Andre and I said, "Hey, I just had a session with your guy Rob." And he's like, "Oh, Rob's the best." It's a small golf world. I think that's one of the appeals of it.
When you were covering the Warriors, did you just, because there's a couple guys that play golf on the team, did you end up talking golf with any kind of regularity with any of the guys, or if you had been a bigger golfer at the time, do you think that would have been something that you
Oh,
would have talked with the guys more often about?
yeah, I wish I had been a better golfer. It would have been such an advantage if I had been, and not just about the guys on the team, but there's so many people within the NBA who are huge golfers. Jerry West, RIP, he had a role with the Warriors when I was covering them, and he was amazing. He set course records, real course records, and his son Johnny, I felt like that was one of his advantages as somebody trying to make his way in the ops world of the NBA, was being a scratch golfer because he
It
could play
doesn't
with
hurt
all
to be
these
married to a
players.
U.S. Open champion either.
Well, yeah, she was really cool too. Michelle Wee, she was
Yeah.
at all the games, and it was funny getting her perspective, but she didn't care at all about basketball.
Okay.
And whenever I would see her before games, I would go, "You're bored." She's like, "Yep." Very. Remember back in the day, she was wearing that cast. I can't remember what the injury was, but she was really cool. And yeah, it would have been nice if I could just download, or if I could have downloaded that sort of skill into my brain, I would have had all these opportunities to have different sorts of conversations and experiences around the sport that I covered, because it's odd. Maybe it makes sense, but it's such a different motion, the swinging motion versus the shooting motion. But great shooters tend to be great golfers. And maybe it's just as simple as having hand-eye coordination. But yeah, the NBA is filled with golf nuts.
Yeah, that's interesting. For whatever reason, I know that baseball players have always, there's been a large, crossover. A lot of baseball players, especially a lot of pitchers, love to play golf. Maybe it's just because they have 4 out of 5 days off, and so they're just looking for ways to fill the days. But that's really interesting. I think I've actually heard you mention that on your podcast before, the corollary between good shooters and good golfers. Yeah, that's fine. Now, do we know, was Clay much of a golfer?
Clay got into it. I don't know how good he got. I'm not sure. But he started to get into it when the other guys were getting into it. And I don't know what level he topped out at. Steph was obviously very impressive, but I think people, when they're ignorant, sometimes can assume too much about it. Again, the outsider's perspective on golf, it's, well, he could be a pro. He could be it's just, no, settle down, slow down.
Steph Curry is really, really good at golf. He is so far away from being competitive in any kind of professional level that, again, I think from outsiders, like you said, it's hard to understand how much better the professionals are in golf than they are anywhere else. I mean, the guys, I know the club champion at any given golf course, he would get smoked by 15 shots by the guys that are on the tour. And honestly, he would get smoked by 15 shots by the guys on the mini tours, right? It's just that the difference is so vast. I'm sure it's probably the same in basketball or something, in other sports as well. But I know golf, being the one that I know, I'm most familiar with. It's crazy. The chasm between the best and not the best is insurmountable.
There's a difference between having a great golf swing that you're confident in and having all sorts of different swings and different shots you use for different situations that you're confident in.
For sure.
That's the gap.
Now, out of curiosity, before we move on, one last thing about your golf swing. So, having seen these videos of your before and after, it was really impressive. I can't emphasize enough how good the golf swing looked in terms of the position where your hands were at the top of the swing and how you were able to stay on the same plane, coming back and then going through. If I asked you, and again, this will be tough considering you've already admitted you don't play a ton of golf. If you had to ballpark, say, a handicap for yourself before and after your swing, based on how you were hitting it, do you have any guess as to where it would be?
I have no idea. And it would be such an easier thing to sell if I could tell you I was this and now I'm that. But the truth is,
huge hit on social media. So save 10 strokes with this one tip.
Yeah. Yeah, the truth is that I haven't played around since making this fix. So the swing is different, but it hasn't been subjected to the pressure of being out there. And, honestly, I don't even know what I'd be at before. Sorry for the burp.
No,
this is the problem with drinking carbonated water here. But, yeah, my thing is, I want to be able to break, triple digits. I want to just get to double digits. And I feel like you can't be claiming handicaps until you get to double digits. And I was not at double digits. I believe with the fix, I'll go out there and I'll do double digits. That's what I think. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. My putting is a disaster. And that's part of what I'm trying to get some help with. And I took some practice putts at the Tilden putting green, and I put it in there, and it gave me some good advice that I wasn't necessarily anticipating. And I'm going to try to follow that advice and try to get a little better, because that's the other component. I think in the beginning, you just want to improve the swing because you need to get there, and then it's more about refining what you do once you get there. So, yeah, I think I'll do double digits, but we'll see. I want to book a round at Corica in Alameda and see what I got.
Really fun golf course, by the way, if you haven't played it. Really a lot of fun.
That was the 6 a.m. golf course. That was
great.
with the guy who is good, who sort of got me on this kind of journey. I want to go back. I want to try it again. I had a great time, and I want to see how the new swing fares.
A lot easier probably to self-diagnose your golf game at somewhere like Corica because it's a little flatter. You're not having as many extreme golf, outlier golf shots like you would at some place like Tilden. So no, that's a great place to do it. Two 18-hole golf courses plus a par 3 course. So tons of options down there. I mean, really, in East Bay, you've got a lot of great golfing options over there.
Well, I like that you pronounce it correctly. I pronounce it
I
phonetically.
I had to mispronounce it on this podcast
Corica.
about 20 different times before I finally was like got shamed into pronouncing it
Uh,
correctly.
no, that's a good course. It's not, it's a little bit forgiving. It's wide at some points, but it's not a joke of a course. And I had an awesome time playing there. So I want it. That's where I want to try it out again. And yeah, Tilden is just too goofy, and I don't have 6 hours to spare if it's an especially close, especially slow day.
Yeah, as I say, as a young dad myself, finding 6 hours in the middle of any day is a challenge. It's a lot. Do you think you're going to lean on LLMs at all to try to improve your putting? You mentioned that's someplace you have a lot of room for improvement. Do you think there's an opportunity for them to work for putting right now? I mean, I guess could it work in the way that you used it for your golf swing? Because oddly enough, after I read your article last week, later that day we had a guest on the podcast who it works with my normal podcast partner, Beige, and this guy owns an app or has developed an app essentially that has an AI caddy in it, right? It logs
Mm.
all of your your shots, and then based on your performance, it will start being able to recommend different shots using different clubs for you throughout your round of golf. So it's sort of outsourcing the strategy portion of your podcast. And he mentioned while he was on that he pointed out he was wearing a pair of the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. And he said, "Hey, look, man, I'm telling you right now, we're probably less than 2 years away from having the technology figured out where I can have these glasses on when I'm playing golf. I'll be able to get on the putting green, look, and it will tell me exactly where I need to hit my putt and how far. It'll be able to read the contours of the green, and you'll just know what to do. Now, granted, it's not going to fix your putting stroke, but that
Is
again,
that
just hours after
banned?
reading your
But where are the rules on that?
there's nothing banned because this kind of technology has never existed. So there was never a rule put in place that would ban it. Now, I can guarantee you, if that becomes a thing, the USGA and the R&A, the two main governing bodies of golf, will more than likely put some rules in there to outlaw something like that in competition. Like you mentioned, most people aren't playing competitively for most of the rounds of golf, and so I don't know. Is that something that you'd be interested in, or does that seem like a bridge too far for someone who's just kind of getting into it?
I mean, I'd love to wear those glasses and see which direction I should putt. That's always hard to figure out. I kind of wonder how hard it would be as they try to create rules. I guess maybe you'll have to check everybody's glasses. That's the way that they'll do it to try to prevent that. Because I do think it's going to be a legit advantage that it's all physics. I think that's one of the things that we should have established earlier as to the why. Why are LLMs perhaps good at clocking golf versus some other sports? And there are opportunities in other sports, to be sure. And I think it's just because it's physics, it's basic physics. And the machine is going to be able to read the topography better than you can. And it's going to know where to go with it, perhaps better than you can. And you can lean on all this feel and touch and everything else. And that's important because it can't do everything for you. But there are aspects that it is going to objectively do better than you. And so, yeah, that would be a tremendous advantage. And I would love to see it. I just uploaded my putting to the GPT, and it's giving its observations right here. Your backstroke length and tempo vary slightly between putts. On the shorter putt, your backstroke was noticeably shorter, but on the longer one, it looked like you accelerated too much through impact. Advice: try to keep your tempo consistent and let distance control come more from the size of your backstroke, not by hitting in quotations harder. A metronome app set to a smooth count, one back, two through, can help. And I'm not going to read all of this, but
I mean,
there's content.
as you're reading it out loud on the podcast, I'm like, I gotta admit, that's like pretty decent advice. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really good. I know a good friend of mine who I play a lot of golf with. Shout out to you, Mr. Benchner. I mean, he that's exactly what he does. I mean, he has his putting stance is always the same, no matter what. But he has little markers in his backswing. Hey, if I have this putt from this short length, I bring my putter to the inside of my right foot. If I have it from this
Mm.
length, I know I'm going to bring it to the outside of my right foot. Longer than that, I'll extend out beyond. And so, I mean, really, that's like, I don't know if it scares me or not, but that's pretty good advice.
It also offers, if you want, I can cut your video into slow motion clips with alignment lines so you can see exactly where your putter face is pointed at impact and how consistent your backstroke length is. That would make the feedback more visual and actionable. And I'm leaving out a lot. It's giving a lot of advice. I don't want to bore the listener.
No,
But yeah,
I'm just,
it
I'm
offers a
so,
tremendous amount.
yeah, sorry to interrupt, man. I'm so impressed by how knowledgeable this thing is. I guess maybe, again, maybe it's just, my
Well, I
naivete,
think
but
the
like,
other thing, it's not just that golf is physics, it's that golfers are obsessives. And so all the LLM is drawing off is just the wealth of golf information on the internet. Without humans helping it and feeding it info and advice, I don't think it would be nearly as capable as advising me on what it sees. So I think it's looking at the video, and then it's drawing off just the wealth of info. And there's more of a wealth of info on the internet about golf than some other sports that don't have as high end a clientele who are that obsessed with advising each other on how to
hmm.
get an edge.
Yeah, that's fascinating. All right. Well, I want to be cognizant of your time, Ethan. I know we're coming up on an hour here, so I was wondering, would it be okay if I gave you just a couple quick topics here that maybe aren't necessarily ChatGPT golf related, just to get your 2 cents on them since we've got you here.
Of course.
I know you mentioned you're not totally up to date on all the live stuff. I mean, do you find yourself like being a golf fan? Do you watch a decent amount of golf or any golf at all?
I like watching the majors and I like watching with my son, but he's not always so interested, or he might have a preference. He likes golf. He likes following some of the golfers to a degree, but he might prefer watching a Pokemon show or something like that. I'm not going to have that argument with him. So I would like to have golf on all the time because it's just a good screensaver for life.
Totally.
I enjoy having it on in the background, but I'm just not acutely following it or granularly following it beyond seeing who won the majors. That's my level of commitment.
That's fair. And I think that would honestly be, I think probably 75% of sports fans, golf fans are probably there. Really, it's a very finite, very small amount of golf people, golf fans, I should say, that are paying a lot of attention to golf tournaments that aren't the four major championships or maybe the Players Championship if you want to add a fifth that takes place in March. And so, um, again, working in sports media, what do you know about the live PGA connection? I don't know if you have any thoughts. If you don't, that's perfectly fine too. Like you mentioned, you haven't been following it very closely. But as somebody who I consider to be really insightful and thoughtful when it comes to sports business and how these companies operate, do you find it surprising that this is still going on?
That's the part I find surprising.
Okay,
That's the main thing. I don't think I'll have anything real insightful to say about it, but it just seemed like a story that had crescendoed and ended, and yet it's still kind of going.
we're more than 2 years removed from PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan and kind of the principal of the Saudi sovereign fund, the PIF, coming together saying we're actually going to merge. Everything's going to be great. We're going to put a framework agreement together and rejoin these leagues. That was over 2 years ago, and we really haven't gotten any updates since. We're kind of just, as golf fans, we're just kind of left in limbo. And I find that I just don't think any other professional American sport could get away with that kind of just ominous like lack of information.
It's because outside of the majors, to a lot of American sports fans, golf doesn't exist. To the golf fans, all this stuff matters and exists. But to the vast majority of people, that is golf. Golf
Yeah.
is that.
And the majors are the
And
one thing that aren't affected by this because members of both leagues are allowed to play in the majors. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
exactly. And I saw John Middlecoff talking to Colin Cowherd about how golf's got to find a way. The PGA Tour's got to find a way to make some of these events matter other than the majors. And I'm fascinated by that challenge. It's so hard to break through. It's so hard to break through. There's so much cultural noise. I say the way to do it is with events. You're an event-based sport. That's good for this era because there's so much noise. The majors, they can cut through. But I don't know how you could add anything else that would cut through. And I don't have any tremendous insights for you on this whole thing, but in a way, Live might have been a reaction to that, or part of a reaction to that. That you've got the PGA Tour, which is a brand that matters, and you want to be on the PGA Tour as a professional golfer. But a lot of this other stuff, it's just sort of noise to the American sports fan. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but it would be interesting. It would be interesting if they tried to add 6 more majors if that would break the sport, or just what do you do? What do you do to get more golf that people want to watch?
It's on this program throughout like 2019, 2020. The one thing that I just had been harping on over and over again is that outside of the majors, the PGA Tour schedule just feels very monotonous and very similar. One week kind of just feels like the next week. There's really no differentiation between, one tournament to the next other than maybe like obviously people that comprise in the field or the golf course. But I think one thing that's really, really cool about golf, an advantage it has over other sports, is that there are multiple formats that you can play in that are, equally compelling. And really, the most compelling format for golf is match play. And I think that's why the Ryder Cup, that only gets played once every other year, is so popular because it's the most like the other sports in terms of it's just one person versus the other person, like you get in every other sport. But for a variety of reasons, the PGA Tour and its television partners are extremely reluctant to have any match play, mostly because, again, the television partners in match play, and if just to kind of, in match play, each hole is its own match, right? You play the first hole, whoever gets the lower score on that hole, they win the hole, they're one up, right? And so theoretically, the best example is when Tiger Woods beat Stephen Ames in the match play, 15 years ago. He essentially won the first 10 holes. He won 10 and 8. He was 10 up through 8 holes, which means the match is over. It only lasted 10 holes. Well, if you're, the television network, you had a 4-hour broadcast window where you're going to put this match on, and all of a sudden, 2 hours and 15 minutes in, it's just over. And now you just have a vacant hour 45 that you don't know what to do with. And for that reason alone, combined with the fact that match play is a little bit more volatile, and it's not a thing where the best players are always guaranteed. Golf is amazing in that all these guys are so good. If any one of them is playing great on any given day, they could pretty much beat anybody over 18 holes. Whereas a 4-day, 72-hole match, the cream generally rises to the top. And so the combination of the television, the golf's television partners not liking the fact that they're not guaranteed to have the top players playing in the championship match, as well as not really being able to guarantee the matches will fill their television window, essentially barred match play from taking place in the PGA Tour. There used to be one annual tournament. They've gone away with that to the point where every single golf tournament is 72 holes, 4 rounds of 18-hole stroke play. And my biggest argument was most of us that are playing games with our friends on the weekends or stuff, we're playing match play. If you go over across the Atlantic, they only play match play over there. If you go to Scotland, Ireland, go play with some locals, like that's all they do. They like to compete. They like to have fun playing against their buddies.
Yeah.
And the fact that this kind of, this format that makes up a majority of people's experience with the sport is just totally ignored. I was raising the flag, like, hey, this is what people want to watch. And again, for the factors that I mentioned, it just doesn't exist. And I think that's what Liv was able to, like, look, people want this. Let's create something new that's varied from the format, and we have the money to make it happen, and bam. And that's kind of how you got what you got. But I'm sure there's a lot more stuff in that, but I'll let you comment.
No, yeah, I think that observation is true, that there's so much that could be done with the format to satiate interest that isn't. I'll throw a wild take out there.
Please.
Maybe I'm wrong about this. I don't know because I'm a casual. I believe that Bryson DeChambeau has done more than anybody after Tiger Woods to increase the popularity of golf. That's what I believe. And I know he's regarded as a villain in some quarters because the live issue and some other things, but he has added more to interest in the game than he has subtracted, and I believe he has done that because of the YouTube stuff. Because he goes to a public course and tries to break the course record in one try and films it and puts it on YouTube, and millions of people watch it. I find myself when I'm procrastinating watching that stuff. He does the break 50 with celebrities and all that. And it shows that there's a demand out there for golf played, but in a different format. It's not even happening live. It'd be interesting if you did more stuff like that live. And it just shows that there's just not enough being done. We saw a little bit of that during the pandemic where they were doing I can't remember what they called it, but they got some good viewership with the NBA players going against each other, and they've broadened it out. Tom Brady going against Peyton Manning. in that sort of setup. So if you can deviate from the way it's been done without being too crazy and adding to the noise, I think there's more stuff out there, and there's more of a demand for golf than would be immediately obvious based on the viewership numbers of the PGA Tour.
Yeah, honestly, I would agree with you on the Bryson front. Think what you will of Bryson. I've had my critiques of him over the years, but I will give him major credit for this in that he is a unique voice and a unique personality, which golf over the last 15 years has had a real absence of. There's just, this is kind of a thing across professional sports. I hear Bill Simmons talking about this on his podcast all the time, is that the agents and everybody have just essentially been coaching the personality out of all these guys because, again, they're no longer athletes, they're brands, right? And they have a brand and an image that they need to keep up, but they don't want to say anything controversial that could cost them, potential sponsors and dollars and things like that. And Bryson, once he got the bag, he went to live, he had $150 million in his pocket. He could just kind of be as goofy as he wanted to. And golf was begging for something. It was starved for like a good personality. So I agree with you 100% on the Bryson front. Do you find his content to be pretty compelling?
Yeah, the YouTube content, sure.
Okay.
It's a weird thing because I have an image based on his reputation of this brash guy, but he doesn't come across that way when I'm watching him in the YouTube videos. And I saw one where he was doing Break 50 with Adam Sandler, and Adam Sandler is just cursing like crazy. And it was it was almost paradoxical or counterintuitive because the guy who makes kids movies just cannot stop cursing. And Bryson's going, oh, golly gee, why'd I hit that shot there? And he's being very clean. And I think he has a sense of himself as a performer and a certain kind of ambassador. And he comes across as nice. And maybe that's for the cameras. I don't know. But that's the impression you get watching him do this. And he seems like a man of the people when he's playing the public golf course and trying to win in one shot and failing most of the time. I think that in a way it displays his gifts, his Herculean gifts, but it also brings him down to the level of the public, and that's just catnip on the YouTube format.
Yeah, YouTube golf in general has been a huge difference maker in terms of interest in golf over the last couple of years. It really wasn't much of a thing pre-pandemic, but now, I mean, there's a bunch of different channels that people are racking up millions of views. I don't know. It's a world that I'm not nearly as familiar with as I probably should be, but it's pretty incredible. And really, Bryson's kind of the front runner for all this. So great job by him. Next subject. Again, quick. We'll get out of here in just a couple of minutes, Ethan. But I can't leave without getting your 2 cents on. Sam and Andy on the Light Years podcast have been stuck in the cuck chair all summer.
No idea.
I
was bracing. I was trying to predict it.
I'm a huge I'm a huge sports fan. Aside from golf, I love all my sports. Again, it's reading you writing about the Warriors, back in the mid 20 teens is one of my great joys. But I've been an avid listener of Sam and Andy for a couple of years, and I always enjoy when you pop on there as well. But what the fuck's going on with Jonathan Kuminga? And what do you have any sense? I know you're not covering the team anymore, but I mean,
I'm so scared of talking Kuminga. I'm scared because I was on Barrier Radio and it came up, and I read something hazily somebody else wrote about him getting a contract offer, and I said the number in my head, and I forget sometimes that people look to me like I know what's going on with the team because I used to know what's going on with the team. And then I saw that get aggregated all over the place. And I was just talking about something I thought somebody else wrote about this whole messed up situation. What I would say is that this avalanche of money has hit the NBA because of the TV rights deal, an explosion of money. And I was asking people in the NBA, has this screwed up the guys? It's that too much too soon idea. A lot of people, they want to beat back against that idea because it's paternalistic, this idea that these young guys get too much money and it screws them up. And I was told, honestly, by people who weren't really afraid of those sorts of considerations, no, it's not the guys who get too much money who get screwed up. It's the guys who don't get the bag who get screwed up because they see their peers who might just have a little bit of difference or maybe a little bit more opportunity getting 5 times as much money, and they can't handle it, and they demand without understanding, hey, it's a long game. And so with Kuminga, that's what I see, where it's this, oh, I need to get this money, I'm worth that. And look, you should have taken a deal last year, whatever the deal was. You'd be 27 by the time it would be over. And if you're actually what you think you are, then you could get crazy money.
Sure.
Steph Curry, he made, I believe, the stat is crazy. I almost wish I could look it up. But Steph Curry has made the majority of his NBA earnings after year 8. That's where the majority came. I think it might be some insane. Oh no, here's the stat. Here's the crazy stat. He's made 90% of his NBA career earnings after season 8. So it's a long game if you're really good.
Yeah.
This isn't the NFL where you could be just going over the middle and suddenly your career's over, generally speaking. And so I think that's what's happening. I think that there's a seeking of status, and it's not just about the money, because there's not that much difference in terms of the gap between what's being asked for and what the team wants. I think it's just they're status sick because it's more of winners and losers, less of a middle class, and the upper class is just getting crazy bank. So I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, my amateur analysis is that for Kuminga, that's kind of been, it feels like that's kind of been the case both on and off the court. I mean, like as a player, I feel like he has felt like he's a little bit more capable than maybe the tape would show. And then, again, off the court, he's thinking that he deserves a little bit more than maybe the Warriors are willing to offer. I don't know. There's some sort of disconnect there. I just can't totally put my finger on it.
I was shocked by the moments he had in the playoffs. He looked like
Likewise.
the worst. He looked like the worst NBA player when he was in the first couple games of playoff action.
Yeah.
Just, this guy's going to lose the series for them. And then he had these moments of just dominant scoring
Incredible
impact.
offensive, like competency, which again, I was shocked to see.
I was shocked to see it, but at the same time, not really passing, not really making an impact on defense, and that's the part I find least forgivable. Considering his athleticism, considering his size, yeah, keeping your head on a swivel, understanding the coverages, this matters, but he just should make more of an impact. And if he wants more playing time and opportunity, that's the easiest way to do it. And that's what separates me from the people who feel he's been wronged in some capacity by Steve Kerr and blame the team and the organization. You can blame the organization for not making a call on this earlier, but not for what Kuminga's produced. It's just the lack of defense, considering the ability to play defense. I'd be wary of investing in it, even if I would readily admit that he could totally be the kind of guy where he flourishes elsewhere and makes them look bad.
Yeah, and I think that's it. It's getting to the point where, if he is going to flourish, it does seem like it's probably going to be somewhere else. Do you have a guess? I won't ask you to make a prediction, but what's your educated guess in terms of where Jonathan Kuminga is playing basketball this upcoming year?
Oh, I have no idea. I can't make a guess on that. I know as much as you do. That's the thing. I might seem like I don't, just given the past, but I know as much as you do, as much as crazy Andy Liu and Mr. Esfandiari. such a wild character.
I know. I like Andy's take. It's just put Gary Payton Jr.'s brain in the Jonathan Kuminga, and you have a perennial All-Pro. I mean, really, someone who cares on defense. Anyway, all right. Last thing here before we take off here, Ethan, and this is the first thing that I ever reached out to you about. I did mention before we started recording that I was going to have to ask you, did you have any prognostication about Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers prospects leading into the 2025 season?
Yeah, it's been a little bit jumbled by all these issues at receiver. And, it's funny. It's other people can kind of give you a perspective on your own situation because you follow your teams locally and you don't know what other people think of it. And this week it started to really build that the situation with the receivers is just dire. I was looking at it going, yeah, guys are banged up. That happens, and that happens in training camp. But now I'm seeing these headlines, and I'm seeing these sports talk shows talking about how bereft the receivers are. And I'm going, oh, man, do I have to reassess? I think I'm just more optimistic than most. I could be wrong. But I saw that preseason game, or I should say I saw the first quarter of the preseason game. And they're making Bo Nix's life hell. And then I go to dinner. And then I come back. I actually fall asleep. I wake up. I want to see what people are saying. And it's 49ers lose preseason game, give up 30 points unanswered, and I do wonder, the YouTubers could be right about their concerns, but there's a bit of forest for the trees happening where I'm going, I don't consider anything that happens in a preseason game after the first quarter especially meaningful in terms of aggregate result. Guys are trying to make the team, so how one guy's doing versus another guy, all that stuff I get matters for cut down and everything else. But I watched that game. I said, oh, Robert Sala's got Bo Nix in hell. They're playing their ones. The Niners playing their twos. This seems good. This seems great. Wonderful. Jordan Watkins, he does a great job stacking DBs. I know he's hurt right now, but I know he screwed up a route and it led to an interception. But when he runs the go route and the DB's behind him, he does that thing where he can almost like Chris Paul slowing up a bit and bounce the guy back. He's got that. I haven't seen any 49ers receivers who are good at that. So that's exciting. That's cool. And yeah, I know everyone's talking about the easy schedule. I don't know. I feel like they should make the playoffs. I feel pretty confident. I'm a little worried about the receiving situation, but every team's got their situation. What I want to know is, at what point are these teams just going to skip training camp and preseason altogether? I know some would argue that they're more likely to get injured once the season starts because they're not ready.
They're already injured.
True.
What difference is it going to make?
It could be true, but whenever I see all these injuries and these guys who are out for the year, I go, there's like those infomercial commercials. There's got to be a better way. That's how I mean, would it be the worst thing if all you guys did was weight training and film study and just walk through basically without all of this iron sharpens iron competition stuff? Probably. I know nothing about how it works, but whenever I see this happening, I go, yeah, I don't know if you'd be so bad off just basically doing nothing but keeping your body in top flight shape until it's time to go.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. It's a little again, not just the receivers, but the running back room just feels like it's just getting pulverized. You know,
my take is I think Ricky Pearsall is excellent, and if he's healthy, I like him better than Ayuk. I'm not an Ayuk fan. I am not. And I hated that they gave him that contract. And to be clear, he's a good receiver. If he returns to form, he's good. But that's all he is. He's good. He doesn't do anything that forces a concession from the defensive coordinator. And there's a value to a guy who's good but doesn't force a concession from the defensive coordinator and makes catches when the ball comes his way. But he doesn't have speed, and he's not good after the catch. There's this whole reputation of the Niners as yak guys.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys are yak guys. Brandon Ayuk folds the second he's touched. He had 2 broken tackles in his best season. So I'm not big on him. Pearsall seems like he's a little bit vulnerable to injury, and that's a concern, but he just seems like a faster player, a better route runner, and he actually tries to score after he catches the ball. And I wonder if Shanahan, that's the thing he hated about Ayuk, is that unless his feet were in the end zone or he was behind the entire defense, that guy was never scoring. Pearsall seems like he fights. So if he's healthy, I'm very optimistic about him.
Yeah, for the 2023 season, it seemed like Brock Purdy, the whole conversation around him is that he was the beneficiary of this amazing Shanahan system and that so many great pieces around him. I didn't really hear many people making that same, analogy with Brandon Ayuk in terms of like, hey, man, you're in a perfect system with a great scheme. You're open all the time. It was just kind of like, look, I'm a top 10 receiver, and that's just how it is. And I don't know. I felt like it could have been vetted a little bit more, but yeah, I don't know. Is Brock Purdy eliminated from potential House of Strauss Muse for the 2025 season? Are you allowed to be a multi-time Muse?
Yeah, I don't think it's as hot a topic now as it was. The last season, it gave the haters ammo. It also gave Purdy some ammo to say that he was pretty good. I think it is ignored. I do think he is the victim of draftism, this anchoring of where guys were picked. And so they had the 4th best offense by passing offense by DVOA last season. It doesn't feel like that because it was a very disappointing result. Their main problem was defense and horrible special teams. So I'm happy with Purdy. The worries I have about him are injury based, not as far as what his baseline is when he's healthy, how he plays. I'm pretty confident in that. And I think I'm way more optimistic about him and positive about him than most of the content creators talking about the Niners. Some would say that's being a homer. I often look at it and say, the stats say this guy is way better than what the old crusty football people say. And I don't believe them. I just don't. I think they're anchored. I think they're anchored by draft status. And I've seen that play out again and again. And they're going to come up with some sort of rationalization. I've seen people make the argument that, well, Jimmy Garoppolo was good and successful, so therefore. And I would say Jimmy Garoppolo's best season, he was 12th in QBR, which is average. He had a great season. Jimmy Garoppolo was a flawed player who, when all cylinders were firing, was an average quarterback.
He was a B plus quarterback at his peak.
For which there is a demand, for which you get paid to be, because that's a thing in the NFL. And, Brock has done way better than that. So I feel as though there's this retroactive make it make sense attempt of saying that it's the system, it's the this, it's the that, because people didn't expect it to be what it is. And I'm very pro Brock. I hope he validates me. I hope he confirms my priors, and that's a lot of what my rooting interest is. But who knows? Maybe I'm a homer, maybe I'm a fan. I find the 49ers content community to be a little negative because there's that past glory juxtaposed against not winning Super Bowls. And then you have a cohort of fandom in the Bay Area that probably trends a little bit nerdier, neurotic. And so I always think it's just a little too negative. I'm like the people who used to bitch at me for my Warriors analysis of why I couldn't be sunshine and rainbows. That's me following the 49ers.
Yeah, it's if nothing else, they are compelling. They're fun to follow.
Yes.
They provide for good entertainment. So anyway, Ethan, we'll wrap it up here, man. Thank you so much for joining. I want to let you know, man, if you have any golf takes that you need to get off your chest going forward, you have a standing invitation to come and share any sort of golf insights that you've got. You got a free studio space here to come explore whenever you have the itch to do so. Do you already have another round on the calendar coming up here pretty soon?
I'll book one. We'll see. We'll see how I do next time. Hopefully I'll be returning triumphantly to say that the gains I made swing-wise actually bore out on the course. We'll see.
Yeah, I know in your article you mentioned that you don't want to, shower all your readers with self-indulgent details of your golf swing. Well, I want to let you know that's exactly what I'm here for. I'm extremely
That's what I loved about this.
I'm extremely curious about the evolution of your golf game with the enhancement of ChatGPT. I find it to be totally very interesting and fascinating. So I'm very curious and excited to learn more as you continue down this path, my friend. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, promote, or share with any of our listeners?
Just House of Strauss Substack. I do a YouTube show called Random Offense about sports media that's live. You can ask questions. Chat PCC, it's the social media app I've been using because it's sort of a classier, a country club Twitter, if you will, is how I regard it. So all those platforms I'm on, happy to have subscribers, happy to have readers, and thanks so much for hosting me here.
Yeah, as a House of Strauss subscriber myself, would highly recommend. I know I've mentioned it on this podcast more than a few times. I don't know if you're aware that you might be a little more prevalent in the golf space than maybe you give yourself credit for. I've seen you referenced in a couple of other golf newsletters that I read. I don't know if you're familiar with Kyle Porter, formerly of CBS, who runs the Normal Sport. He's referred to some of your articles a few times in his big golf newsletter, which I always get a kick out of.
I gotta check this out. I didn't even know about that. I was aware of him, but I didn't know about that.
Yeah, he does a great newsletter that where he's referred people to some of your work on a few occasions, and I always get a kick out of it.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that. That's very nice to hear, and I'm so happy I've had a platform to self-indulgently talk about my swing, because by God, I've been just boring certain friends with this in group chats who have been telling me to stop. So it's nice to be here where I can discuss.
Absolutely, man. Well, I hope that one day we get an opportunity to maybe get some swings in together, go play 9 holes. You have 2 to 4 uninterrupted hours to give me all the details about what's going on with your golf journey. So, Ethan, thank you again for joining us, man. Everybody listening, thank you so much. If you find yourself out on the golf course or just out anywhere, please don't forget the advice by the great great Patrick Swayze. Which, oh, geez, of course. I don't even have my soundboard. That's right, folks. All right. Have a good one. We'll see you next week, folks.